Good morning, people. How you going? So let's have another chat about disaster payments. I've just had a very interesting conversation with a person who decided to start arguing with me basically in the inbox. But anyway, a person who refuses to see what's wrong with the cashless debit card. And at the end of it, she says, I didn't say it was a good thing. Well, then again, she kept questioning me on the sort of what's the actual complaint? What's the problem? Right? Claims that we're scaremongering about age pensioners. I can't stand people that won't accept that, age pensioners are age pensioners. And that because Aboriginal age pensioners are already on the card in the Cape York, that's okay, because they're Aboriginal, because Peter Dutton says that no age pensioners are going to go on it. So we're scaremongering. It's like, well, if no age pensioners are going to be on it, why are there 26 mandated age pensioners in the Cape York? Why, there's 9 volunteers as well. Why are they on the cashless debit card? Why couldn't the FRC program keep their original basics card program that was working for them, is my question. You know what I mean? Why is it, right, as far as I'm concerned, if you're on an age pension and you've been put on a cashless debit card, you're on a cashless debit card. You're an age pensioner on the cashless debit card. This liberal mindset that, the Aboriginal people on the cashless debit card are invisible, they don't count, they're not age pensioners, but they are. This constant, we're never going to put age pensioners on it. Why don't you just write it out there? We're never going to put white age pensioners on it, is what they should have said. But they haven't. They put in the legislation, and it's only going to require a legislative instrument, a signature, to change that. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what colour your skin is. If you're on an age pension and you've been put on a cashless debit card, you're on an age pension. You're an age pensioner cashless debit card holder. That just makes me really sick that these people think it's okay for Aboriginals, but believing all the rubbish from the LNP government, that they will never they'll never force age pensioners onto it. Gillespie staffer told one of our followers here, straight up, it'll be for their own safety, right? Because let's look at it another way. By the time you've got your grandchildren on it, your adult children on it that are claiming family tax benefits, right, then the excuse will be, well, you need to go on it because, you don't want them pressuring you for money. For your own safety, it's best that you go on it. Push, 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 right? And the fact that, people in Queensland seem to think that the Hinkler model is the only thing that exists, right? And I mean, this person goes, I only know what my member tells me, and her member's Peter Dutton. If he told you to jump off a cliff, would you? Honestly. Oh dear. I pointed out to her, if there was no intention to put more age pensioners on the cashless debit card, why is it that all the bowls clubs are banned? Why is it, that it was legislated for in the first place? If there was never any intention to put age pensioners on the card, why is it listed as a restrictable payment in the legislation? If they were never intended, right? Never intended, why was it put there? I feel sad for this person because I gave her factual information and she just carried on about I'm scaremongering, right? She questioned the validity that I'd spoken at 4 Senate inquiries. So I sent her 2 videos of them. You know what I mean? The other 2 were done by phone. I've spoken at so many forums and I've spoken all over the country and I've done so much media, right? But she's going to believe Peter Dutton over everybody. I sent her to the link to the www.thesayno7.com where 6 years of information is there, legislations, reports, evaluations, everything, the card holder stories, the media, right? Everything is there. And she totally dismissed it, right? So far, none of our stuff has been pulled down by fact checkers. That says a lot, doesn't it? That's because Amanda does her backup work to make sure everything's fact checked before we post it. Okay? You know, so it can't be pulled down as false or fake news. I really don't understand it. I explained to her what the issues are with the card, right? She's claiming that every federal member bends over backwards to help her with her sentencing, but and tax on federal matters. But then on the other hand, she she snapped back at me in another I work for my money. You know what I mean? She doesn't understand. So, she sent me the letters that she got, and I've saved it. I've got to blow it up because it's too small for me to read. That Peter Dutton sent her. All right? All I can say to people like this is, good luck, goodbye. I've ended up having to ban her. Because at the end of it all, even though I gave her the DSS stats showing exactly who's on the card, where they are, what payments they're on, she'd still dismiss that as scaremongering, even though that is the government's own data, right? So the blinkers are fully on. Do you know what I mean? I only know what my federal member says. Well, he's going to say it, make it all look pretty and nice. All right. So if you appeared at Senate inquiries, it would have been on the TV. This is a big issue that affects millions of people. Oh, it was mentioned in news articles. I remember at the time, but no, they don't put that live on your TV anymore. You have to go and watch it at Parliamentary Watch. Do you know what I mean? It's there. It's streamed live for people to watch if they want to tune in and watch it. So, she doesn't seem to believe that people on a disability are already on it. She can't understand that people in the Hinkler electorate who go on to DSP are not on it. They get to get off of it, but that's the only region. She doesn't seem to be able to understand that. Then she tried to start an argument with me regarding the disaster relief funds. Now, the $180 that was announced by Bridget McKenzie is a federal payment. If people are eligible for that, they'll have to apply for that through their MyGov account, which means that if they're on a Centrelink payment and on a cashless debit card, it will go onto the cashless debit card, 100%. Right? If they're applying for the federal disaster relief package, which is $1,000 per adult, $400 per child, that's even if they can apply for it, because I've had a look at that as well, and that seems to be really difficult for people on income support payments to apply for if they don't own the home and can't prove home damages. Right? This concerns me with the amount of people that may be on Social Security payments or on the cashless debit card that may have lost everything, right, and can't claim. We had this back in January and people couldn't claim, and it's happening again already, all right? However, those people may be able to claim through the Queensland grant system, and from my region in the Wide Bay, if they go to Bruce Saunders' Facebook page, he's put up the details there of when and how people will be able to apply for the Queensland state government grants, which are paid differently, right, depending on the eligibility criteria for people, right? But the cashless debit card is a federal policy. The cashless debit card quarantines 100% of federal disaster payments, whether it be the $180 payment that Bridget McKenzie announced, right, as that is a federal payment, or the federal disaster relief payment, if you can get access to it. Bottom line, it goes on the card 100% because it's a lump sum payment. And I'll reiterate again, the state government, the Queensland state government grant payment is different. And you have to go through a whole different process to apply for that. That is not paid onto the cashless debit card. So maybe that might help people, but that's means tested, and it all depends on the individual's circumstances. All right. And I say again, you can get onto Bruce Saunders' page in our region, Wide Bay, and look up the details for that and what will be happening with that. All right. Yeah. But no matter what I said to this woman, she was just, yeah, I've just blocked her. You know, I said to her, I made it clear I was focused on the cashless debit card and what card holders are put through. You know, state is different to federal. And all she came back was whinging about lots of people on the dole and double dole during the height of the Rona pandemic. I have to work for my money. Well, that ended that. We won't have a polite conversation after that. A 65-year-old woman having that mentality and ignoring I'd already explained to her the legal protections in law removed, the loss of statutory rights, consumer rights, privacy rights, the loss of autonomy, having some 20-something-year-old Serco call centre employee on the other end of the phone make decisions for you, right, is not on. You know, I asked her at one stage, because I'm on a disability support pension, is my citizenship now worthless? Because I'm up for sale for $13,000. If the government rolls this out, Indue gets paid $13,000 to take over my life. That's the way I view it. You know what I mean? And as much as this, I've shown this many times and I've wrinkled it up. You know what I mean? Yeah, so, yeah, I've just taken out the numbers. But, I mean, this to me meant a lot, my citizenship papers. This is not the original, by the way. And this is how the cashless debit card makes me feel, is that that's what it's doing to citizens' rights and human rights. When you remove people's protections in law at a legal level, you leave them outside the law. They've got no protections. So a private company can do whatever they want. And Indue explicitly says in this booklet that they give to card holders that they're not responsible for any damages they cause you, any financial hardships they cause you by them not paying your bills, any default fees, right? They are not responsible, blah, 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 because they've got that lovely notice of no action protecting them, right, so that ASIC doesn't do them for the consumer law breaches that are being imposed on cashless debit card holders. Or should I say, forced third-party income managed people. Do you know what I mean? It makes me sick that some people just don't understand. Contracted without your consent. Hello, right? The Protections of Payments Act, all right, under Social Security, Commonwealth Act, 1991, 1999. Please, somebody, right, at the Senate inquiry where Rachel Seward was screaming at Morrison at the time because he was a social services minister, how are you going to get round that law? Oh, we'll work it out. And they did. They exempted forced cashless debit card holders from the protections of that law, the Protections of Payments Act, which stops a third-party company coming in and usurping your social security payments without your consent. We have guardianship and public trustee for that sort of thing. People need to go to court to be assessed for capacity before they lose their capacity and, you know, their autonomy. It's normally decided in a court of law. But no, this bypasses the whole system, right? The majority of the people, I mean, at the moment we've discovered 9 volunteers, right? But the rest didn't get an option. They didn't get a day in court. They've not been assessed for capacity. I had a parent with an autistic child put on the card, or autistic adult, young adult put on the card, and he did not have capacity to use that card. She had to waste, and I say waste because to me this is cruel what they did to her, $5,000 of her NDIS funding, $2,040 of that to get a capacity assessment done, right, to prove that he didn't have capacity to use the card in order to get him off the card, right? The other $3,000 was in clinical psychiatrist reports and $500 a shot to go and see this psychiatrist to get the relevant reports, right? Honestly, people don't know what's been going on. We try our hardest to give card holders a voice, right? One of the things that sticks with me at the moment is we can't get out of the department how many people have unalived themselves on the card. And for years, they've been saying, oh, we don't have that data, don't have that data. And all of a sudden, right, they've released the data of how many people have unalived themselves or come off of Centrelink because they're no longer here, right, through to being deceased, right, for the years 2019 to now, and which payments they're on. But they won't give us the details of exactly who was on a cashless debit card or a basics card, right? Excuse my breathing. When I get hyped up, I can't breathe. So there we have it. So I cut communication with this lady because she screamed at me, get your facts right. You know what I mean? In regards to disaster payments. Been there, done that. We've been through this before, right? At the end of the day, right, what cruel government votes the way they did on December the 9th, 2020, and we've posted it on our page with the legislation here, with the votes, ayes and noes, right? Who votes to block Australians from accessing cash, right, in an impending disaster situation and throughout a disaster? LNP, One Nation, right? That's who votes against it. Centre Alliance. Sorry, that's my TikTok notification. Sorry. You know, who does that? So in every disaster situation, you get warnings. You get prepared. So get prepared is get water, get batteries, get cash out of the bank. The power's going to go down. You're not going to have access to stuff. Da-da-da-da-da. All right? We saw in the bushfires where, you know, phone boxes were melted. I had Services Australia telling me to tell cardholders, ring them. So I sent her a photograph of a melted phone box. How? There's no signal for mobiles. You know what I mean? Service stations down in New South Wales were able to operate manually, cash only, in order to provide petrol for people to escape. What about somebody on a cashless debit card? They don't have any cash to escape, and this amendment that they voted down makes sure that they can't escape. And that's my worry. And I said it yesterday. The thought in my mind back then was, what if you had somebody in that queue and we saw queues of traffic headed out, right, who broke down because they ran out of petrol and because they were on a bloody card. This kept going through my head. What if that happened? How would that person be treated by the other drivers? Would they be abused because they're on the cashless debit card and all the stigma and abuse that we've seen here? Oh, you get a job, this, that, and all the other. Would they be at risk? Or would drivers come to their aid and somebody get some petrol in their car for them and feel sorry for them because they couldn't get cash? I don't know how it would work, because looking back to 2017, right, you know, when the disaster that hit Seduna with the electricity going down for 8 days, right? Yeah, the community rallied together. All the shops were operating in cash, right? They got an emergency set up at the community pub, which is a banned merchant, right? And the locals could go in and get cash out of their accounts and carry on. People on the cashless debit card couldn't do that. And they had no food, no fridges, no power, and they were left abandoned for 8 days. But look further afield. The basics card, when it goes down for weeks, when Telstra's cut in the outback, the Tiwi Islands, seeing that video of those people up to their waist in water, waving their basics card around, screaming for help. You know, when people are going weeks without access to food and the local approved store can't do book up anymore because they owe too much. It's like, this is ridiculous. People starve on this card and basics card. People are left to fend for themselves, right? And then you get somebody who's moaning, I can't see what's bad with it. I'm sorry. Stripping somebody of their legal protections in law. We've already discussed consumer rights. Let's look at statutory rights. We don't even take that away from convicted murderers or pedophiles. They sit in prison. They've had their day in court. They've been judged by their peers. But when they go to prison, they don't lose their statutory rights. They don't lose their consumer rights. They don't lose their privacy rights. I can tell you right now, in fact, their privacy is very heavily protected, right? Yet a cashless debit card holder's privacy is out the window as all of their data is collected, and that of their children if they have children, and it's all bundled up nicely for Domino. It's shared to the US, UK, Israel, Netherlands, Spain. They even tell you they share your information with all their stakeholders, right? This is disgusting. But convicted prisoners, they got their rights, okay, and they should have. Human rights protection should be no matter what. But cashless debit card holders are now subject to breaches of Article 9 under the UNCHR and other breaches of human rights. But the government's going, oh no, it doesn't. But, you know, the Law Society and the Human Rights Commission have been very plain that the cashless debit card is not compatible with our international and domestic human rights. So you're stripping people of legal rights in law. You're segregating them and putting them outside the rule of law and non-discrimination. Then you're denying them their human rights. I can't say what I want to say, but this has been done before in history, okay? People, please understand what happens when you segregate, and we're talking that if they roll this out nationally, 25% of our population, right, and you put them outside the rule of law and non-discrimination, what happens to those people? They're already being financially abused by being contracted to a private company for profit. They've already lost 80% of their income because under Social Security law, once a recipient's payment enters their bank account, it becomes their legal income. It is also becomes their fiscal worth in regards to how the banking sector reviews your credit statuses, right? However, for a cashless debit card holder, 20% is all their fiscal worth is in law, all right? They don't own the 80%. It never made it to their bank account. So who owns it? Indue owns it, and the government gives it to them freely, 80% of that payment. And then between services in Australia and call centre staff, Serco call centre staff, and Indue, they decide who can do what. They decide if you're allowed to have a rental allowance. And if you don't fit into their box, you don't get a rental allowance, so you can't get rent paid. Well, too many people are homeless because of this card. Hinkler Electra took out how can anybody, even the most disadvantaged region in the country outside of what I call our fourth world conditions, Aboriginal communities. That's what Hinkler has dropped to. The most disadvantaged region in the country, right? With the highest amount of homelessness and youth suicide, unaliving. I wish people could understand this better. But then again, the lady with her blue glasses on in my inbox, she put my blood pressure up a bit too much because, she only believes Peter Dutton. Well, good luck to her. The people of Ceduna were told at the beginning it was a 1-year trial and that it would be for New Start recipients and only targeted to those that needed it. They told that to the elders at the time to get the signatures on the Memorandum of Understanding. When the card rolled in to everybody who was on every payment, AB study, OS study, job seeker now, right? Parenting payment, single or partnered, right? Disability support pension, carers, the whole works, and all of the supplementary payments as well. The town went wild, right? One of the elders even unsigned that Memorandum of Understanding, but the government, of course, ignored it. And the then Minister, Alan Tudge, all smoothed it all over. And he misrepresented it in Parliament. No one said boo, right? Seriously, a 1-year trial in Ceduna. Then it was spread into East Kimberley, Kununurra, Wyndham, right? And then it got extended, and then it got extended. And then when Pauline Hanson came on the scene, of course that pushed it into Kalgoorlie, the Goldfields, right? And then into Hinkler. And all you'll hear from Pauline is she still thinks it's for only under 35s. Pauline, you have to be 36 to get off the card in Hinkler. Around the rest of the country, apart from the Cape York, you have to be 66 and a half. You have to be getting your age pension. And one of the people that has now resigned herself to it, is 65-year-old in Seduna, right, is waiting to see if she's going to be allowed to get off of it when she applies for her age pension. This will be interesting because she's already asked and she's been told that she'll have to make an application. If they're never going to put age pensioners on it, why would she have to apply to get off it? She would, it should be like it is in Hinkler, was once you go on age out or go on to a different payment that's not a trigger payment, you should be automatically taken off of it. But you can't get a straight answer. I wonder why. Why are bingo halls, why are bowls clubs on the banned list? Right? Go and have a look at, it's a bit hard to find it. If I can dig up the link, I will, and I'll put it in the comments here when I get off this, right? Because they've hidden the link pretty well, but I can find it where you can shop. And you can go through and look at all the banned places across the country and the mixed merchants, okay? Which mixed merchants is where you can buy food, but you can't buy a drink. Only certain pubs in certain towns can be mixed merchants, all right? And you'll notice what I call the cheaper pubs, the $10 meals, they don't come under the mixed merchants approvals, okay? Yeah, how convenient. The cheaper plug, and the cheaper businesses, I just get so frustrated when people come into my inbox, start off quite innocent and then start being, she claims I'm putting my own spin on it. No, I know the legislation upside down, inside out. And so does Amanda. And she's broken it down many times, and we've posted it and we've explained it in plain English instead of the legalese in which it's written. All right, and we do the best to make sure that everything that is posted is fact-checked, double-checked. So if you don't know enough about the card, right, you can keep up to date here on this page, or you can go on SN7 Resources Facebook page, or you can go to the Say No 7, www.thesayno7, or one word, .com website, where you will find 6.5 years worth of everything. Government reports, evaluations, right, cardholder experiences, the media, right, everything, submissions from the Senate, the videos of the senators standing up against the card, who voted for it, who didn't vote for it, and stuff like that. So, yeah, all that information is there for everybody to utilise. And there's also a toolkit that if you want to get on board and help, you can print off our flyers, which come with a QR code, which directs you straight back to that website. So you can hand out those flyers in your local area, put them up on notice boards, put them around libraries, put them everywhere. So people can actually go to a source and read up what the media and what the LNP have not told the public about this horrible, destructive, inhumane program that I've watched destroy people, friends of mine, right? Any policy that causes a death or causes significant harm, right, destroys people's credit ratings and their rental ledgers, all for a trial. Remember, these are permanent impacts on people's lives that blocks people from doing normal things, like swallows somebody's bereavement payment so they can't pay for the funeral urns of their 2 children that they want to be able to pay for the funeral for. No. Indue got the lot. You know what I mean? And then when she borrowed the money off of her mum, they wouldn't let her transfer the funds back to her mum. Because bereavement payment goes on the card 100%. How low do you go? Or when somebody passes away that's on the cashless debit card and the parents are still getting statements for that cashless debit card, even though the account's supposed to be closed. Why are the card accounts kept open after a person is taken off the program or leaves the program by whatever means? Why are these accounts being kept open? Right? Somebody's got to be making money off of that, surely. Right? And the department's attitude is, in case we need to put you back on it. So the latest one, somebody managed to get onto the DSP in Hinkler, so they got off their card. right? Because they went from job seeker to DSP. They finally made it. But it's only Hinkler that can happen. If you live anywhere else on the card, DSP is on the card, right? You know, yet they're refusing to close that account of that cashless debit card, right, on the grounds that they didn't want to transfer her funds back to her normal bank account and close it like they should have, because you might lose your DSP and end up back on job seeker. Any excuse to keep these accounts open. Why? Why? Yeah, there's so many questions about this program, but I would like to see more people standing up about the human rights abuses and the removal of legal protections in law. Nobody's speaking up against that. You know what I mean? This has been legislated away in law. You know, senators and politicians voted those things away in the House of Reps. Craig Kelly, UAP, LMP, right? They voted it away in the House of Reps. Then we go into the Senate, the LMP, One Nation, Centre Alliance, all voted it away in the Senate. It passed as Senate and became law. It became law to impose financial apartheid on people on social security payments. That's not on. All right? I have a TikTok account. Oh my God. I've actually started saving a lot of the nasty comments. Right? Because a lot of people in this country feel that they've got a right. Oh, it's taxpayer money. We should have a right to say how it's spent. People on Social Security pay taxes every day on everything that they buy, and not just GST, excise taxes, all sorts. The only thing, and many people are working. They're underemployed. They're also paying income taxes. But somebody missed the bridge there, because neoliberalism doesn't want you to believe anything, that nobody will teach people what Social Security is supposed to be about, and it's economic stabiliser for the country so that we don't go into a depression, so that we have businesses open and employing people, right? You know, it's just disgusting how people are getting treated just for being on payments. The attacks on Social Security, the attacks on single parents, the attacks on people with disabilities, but then compound it with a cashless debit card and you're branded a druggie because the media and Murdoch and LMP says so. Because Anne Ruston doesn't believe that if you give people on Social Security any more money, she thinks it's all just going to go to the drug dealers. I've got news for her, but no, I'm over it. I really am. And I'm not going to shut up until I'm probably dead at this rate. But yeah, people need to stand up more against the human rights abuses and the legal protections. This is a big, big issue that's overlooked. You know, there's a lot of places you can't use the card. There's a lot of bills you can't pay with the card. You can't pay your water rates bill with the card, okay? If you have a house and you've got to pay the water rates, right? Childcare fees, certain loans, car loans. Plenty of card holders have lost cars and gone bankrupt because indue wouldn't allow to transfer for the payments of their cars, and the companies that they were financed through wouldn't accept the indue card. All right, so they've wangled it around now that only Money3 are the approved lender at 24.95% interest. So a single mum who's desperate to replace a car pays $8,000 for a car and has to repay $16,000, right? Because that's the only one that's approved by indue, right? You know, people getting told they can't access their money that's stuck in the card to buy things secondhand or cheaper. Just go out and get Afterpay or Zip Pay and then pay the debt with your card. Pushing people into what I call bad credit, right? Rather than letting people have access to money that should rightfully be theirs, but indue owns it now. All right? Oh, so many issues. So we had a big fight, and it's still going on TikTok, where I had a parent last week who didn't have the $2 gold coin for her local school fundraiser for the canteen, and they were doing ice cream day for the kids. Right? One of her children is autistic, doesn't understand. These are 6-year-old children. So she went to the service station trying to ask people if she could buy them petrol on the card and swap for cash, so that she sent a note back saying kids were going to be late for school while she was trying to do that. I asked her later, because somebody came into my inbox and asked, how does that make her feel? Can you imagine how it makes you feel? One of the things she told me what the responses she gets from people. A lot of people, because where she is now, it's not like Seduna. Seduna, people took advantage of people on the card. You know, the going rate for a tank of fuel was $150. They gave them $100 cash. But outside of Seduna, a lot of people aren't familiar with this workaround, and she's been told where to go. She's been asked to leave the service station. She's been abused by people, right? It puts people in precarious situations, but it leaves them open to predators as well. You know, and some of the comments attacking the kids on TikTok, I couldn't believe it. People attacking that post, you know, couldn't get it through their thick skull. She had money on her indue card on Friday, but her cash portion doesn't come through till Monday or Tuesday. But the event was Friday. And she's trying to do whatever she can so her kids don't miss out, right? And, oh my God, the hate, you know? And then was just phenomenal. You know, well, us kids had to miss out. It's like, no, you don't get it. You're missing the point. This causes psychological damage to children, right? It ingrains you're povo, you're less than, all right? And it opens children up to bullying, right? It does, and it cripples them mentally from the age of going into childcare. I had another parent in WA who couldn't pay her childcare fees, and she couldn't pay anything at her local school with the card, and it made life really, really difficult. And she had one in childcare, like daycare, and she had one 5-year-old, 6-year-old going into, and she noticed it was impacting their education. It impacts their social standing as well. You know what I mean? Especially if the parent is seen using the card, as we saw in Hinkler, when a parent was seen using the card and his 15-year-old son copped it in the neck at school. Your dad's on the crackhead card. You know what I mean? So it doesn't matter what age, the kids are going to be stigmatised. What's that going to do for their self-esteem? What is that going to do for their self-esteem? Right? And their identity and who they are. Oh, you're povo, you're worthless, you're nothing, right? And then to be bullied. And one of the things that, this led into another problem that I noticed when I moved to Queensland, is teachers poverty shaming students, right? I come from South Australia. Anything to do with money was an envelope passed to the student, give that to your mum, and it was sealed, right? No discussion with the student about finances regarding school fees or excursion fees or things that are needed. Do you know what I mean? And no bullshit, if a parent doesn't have the money, the school would cover until, so the kids didn't miss out. There was none of that. Come to Queensland, all right? Stand up all those whose parents haven't paid for blah, blah, blah. How to humiliate poor kids. And I saw that happened with my daughter and 5 other students in her class, all right? And exclusion. Oh, well, if your parent can't pay on that day, you'll be excluded. I thought like I'd step back 50 years into a time warp. You know, I mean, I didn't think this kind of psychological abuse happened. But it does. And it's still very rife up here, very judgmental, right? Especially against poor parents who can't just afford stuff on the day. Many teachers can't understand that parents on payments of any kind can't just pull out dollars on the day. They have fixed paydays and that's it. And they can't understand it. So, anyway, there's my gripe for the day, started by this lovely woman in my inbox who decided that what Peter Dutton says is gospel, and no amount of proof will convince her, so she can go away with her blue glasses and leave me alone. Anyway, guys, take care. That's all I wanted to talk about was the disaster relief payments. If you're trying to apply for state payments, go through your local state ALP member. They'll be able to help you. If you're in the Wide Bay area, go to Bruce Saunders' page, and they've got all the details there. I presume also there'd be details from Adrian Tantari's page for people in Hervey Bay, and the like, and going down the coast. Yeah. That's all I can say, all right? So stay safe, people, and, yeah, hopefully we won't get any more flooding. Where I am, the bridge is still closed. It was delayed yesterday before the storm, so I'm just waiting for them to open the Lamington Bridge, and then I can get back over properly instead of having to take the long way around. But I didn't realise it had been a week that I'd been stuck. So anyway, not to worry. All good. Take care, guys. See ya.